What's up, and welcome to the Music Hustlers Podcast, the show with real-world advice on how to take your band to the next level. My name is Kenny, and I'll be your host. Today, I've got a really good dude. He's the sound guy over at the Nile. One of the sound guys at the Nile. Yeah, also does sound for Fit for a King on tour and stuff like that. So I'm excited to chat with you. Bryan Greenberg, man. What's up?
Hey.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me. This is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like I said, you work sound for the Nile, so you've been mixing me for how long? Like that? Feels like 1,000 years, but thousands of shows for sure.
The other day, I was trying to remember what the first band I mixed you with was, and I couldn't.
That's true.
It's been so long.
Dude, we've been in and out of the scene for forever. Cool, man. So let's start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What how did you start working with the Nile?
Kind of by chance. I had started going to school at SEC. Shout out
SEC.
Ron and everybody at SEC who's still there. Ron and Craig and Corey Spots.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, their program's great. I started just going there, doing whatever. I wanted to go for recording. Kind of realized that that's really hard to get into.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember what happened, but one day I had the epiphany of yo, I go to a lot of shows. Someone gets paid to work those.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I could do that. That's sick.
That's tight.
I had a friend at the time that I had met through playing in local bands that was essentially the manager at the time, back in the day. And he got me in there to work, I think it was the first or second Within These Walls Fest.
Oh, nice.
I did volunteered and did door. And then Michelle needed somebody for snack bar stuff back in the day, if you remember that.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then after a year or two of that, I remember I was settling with her in the office one day after a show, and she was like, yo, somebody told me you go to school for sound. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, why didn't you tell me that you want to do sound? And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And I got to do one of the old floor shows that were in the corner.
Oh, dude, I missed those floor shows.
Yeah, the old floor show PA and everything.
Oh,
and one of the guys who used to be one of the front houses there that hasn't worked there in years and years, he came literally because he was like, yo, this is a sink or swim thing, so make sure you don't sink. And I was like, thank you, because I didn't know what I was doing. Built it, did the show, and then just kind of kept going from there.
That's tight, man. That's really dope. Just getting started with not necessarily being the sound guy and then kind of working your way up through the snack bar and all that. That's tight, because you always hear these stories about people who I went to school and then I started working as an intern. Like Jason. I think Jason did an internship at the Nile. And,
from Miranda? Yeah. Jason. I don't remember where Jason went to school. I don't remember who went to MCC. It doesn't matter. He did the same thing. He was an intern for me and Zach Rippey, who's the other guy over at the Nile. We're the two main guys most of the time. And Zach has a studio out here in Mesa too. But he, Jason came and interned with us, and then it just kind of the way that venue kind of works is sometimes you just end up having to mix a show if you're an intern. Yeah. Because sometimes if it's not me or Zach, there's a handful of other people that do stuff, and now there's a little group, but there's always a couple people that are a little unreliable. Yeah. Kind of last minutes in case people can't do stuff or someone's on tour, because me and Zach both tour.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I don't remember exactly what happened with Jason, but Jason did a couple shows by himself, and we were yeah, you got it.
No, he's super solid. He's mixed me a few times, and I love the dude. So.
He's become quite the problem solver.
Yeah, absolutely, cool. Absolutely. Cool, man. So you mentioned you tour. You've been on tour, a few times. How many times have you been on tour?
Oh God, I actually counted how many times I got around the U.S. 2 days ago, and I don't remember. A lot. I've been touring. Basically since 2013, I didn't do anything in 2014. I only did 2 tours in 2013, and the first 2 that I got paid for, because I'd done little stuff with bands. But they weren't tours; they were weekenders. But I did that. I didn't do anything in 2014 because I was still really new, didn't get any cool offers. End of 2015, I got my first real gig. It was like a week-long thing, but it was with a real band, not just like a local band. Because the other tours I did were bands from here that were coming up at the time that don't exist anymore. And that transitioned into what was at least ended up being a full U.S. headliner, which is the one I met Fit on, and then I kept going from there. So that was February 2016 is when I met them, and then we're still going now. We would be out right now.
Yeah.
Actually, wait. It's June or about June.
It's gonna be June tomorrow.
We would have just gotten home from the European leg of the Dark Skies tour.
Nice.
Headliner. We would have just finished U.S., Japan, and Europe, and we'd be home for I think 2 months or a month and a half before we went and did that big Parkway tour.
Yeah.
That is also pushed back now. So
yeah.
I don't know if that's announced, but I mean, people figured. I'm sure people figured that out.
Yeah. We all kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But that's unfortunate. Everything going on with the tour. How
it is what it is.
How are you feeling about it?
I mean, we're all pretty bummed. I know the guys took it pretty hard. It was the U.S. Dark Skies, and the Europe one were the first real mostly A-market headliners they'd ever done. So people who don't know what a market is, major cities.
Yeah.
We've done headliners over the past 2 summers, one of which played Club Red. I don't think the other one didn't come here. But those were mostly in
Oh yeah, the Club Red. I was at that show.
Yeah. That was a fun one. That was actually a horrible day. Our van died that day.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to that.
Yeah, we'll come back to
it.
But they had done those two. We did a co-headliner in 2017 with In Hearts Awake. But they'd never done a real this is us, this is our tour kind of thing in major cities. And it was really cool. It was the biggest venues we'd ever played. Months of work between their agent, their manager. I was advancing the tour for 2 months.
Yeah.
We're playing 1,000 cap rooms.
Yeah.
Pretty big rooms. So the last show we got to do was in Illinois not in Chicago, but right outside Chicago in Joliet at the Forge. And it was super bittersweet because it ended up it sold out. And it was the biggest Fit for a King headliner that they've ever done.
Yeah.
So it was really bittersweet because we knew that was the last day, and the rest that week of the tour was all about to basically every day was going to sell out. It was on the brink, and there were all these massive venues that we had supported in but never headlined, and so it was a weird thing. I think everybody handled it pretty well. Basically, when we were in Cleveland. The day we played Cleveland House of Blues, the word went out from the governor that it was the beginning of the shutdown.
Yeah.
And House of Blues, shout out whoever the GM is there, he called the governor.
Oh, damn.
And he was like, can we do this show or not? We need to know right now. And he was like, we have tickets sold, we got people here, bands are checked, we're ready to rock, we just need to know. And he was on the phone for 2 hours, and then they were just open the doors, we're doing the show.
And that's awesome.
So we might have been the last
Shout out.
Might have been the last big show in Cleveland too.
That's wild, man.
But I mean, everyone's pretty rightfully bummed because we had a lot of big stuff this year that's not going to happen. But
it's definitely a setback for quite a bit of bands, and it's it's such a bummer to see that the industry just crumble like it is right now, and it's it's really hard to watch. Do you, being stuck at home, not being able to tour as much, do you have any advice as far as being creative with income and kind of, still trying to stay motivated and creative?
Not particularly.
I feel it.
I'm in a lucky spot where the bands that I tour with and the venues I work for are all big enough that I was lucky and went into this in a way better position than a lot of my peers.
Yeah.
Just because I'm always on the road or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've been with my guys for a long time, so they pay me really well.
Yeah, I feel that.
But you just got to get thrifty. I mean, it's like anybody else who's like any kind of artistic endeavor, being in a band, whatever, like you just kind of learn how to make it work. And it's kind of weird, you know, like when you're really trying to push to be in any kind of artistic space, you go through a big lull always when you're coming up where, you know, you have to pick between security of having some kind of like full-time job or like, you know, doing whatever it is. For me, it obviously sound, which is a full-time job for me, but like you said, everything's closed. Any venue I could work at is closed. There's no tours. So it's just falling back on that stuff that I did like, whatever, like 5 years ago.
I feel that.
When I first was like, I'm not going to work retail anymore, I'm just going to work music.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was definitely rougher then for me than it is now, but yeah.
So going back to that though, that like moment when you're like, I'm not gonna work for a job anymore. I'm doing music full time. What was that like for you?
It was pretty liberating.
Yeah.
I'd always played in bands and always just wanted to pursue something with the arts, and I knew it was possible. I had a couple people that were older than me that I worked with that like once I started the Nile, that is, that did it full time, just like any, you know, sound, whatever. And funny enough, I used to, my last like real retail job was I did backstock at Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was horrible. Shout out that place. And literally, I was still working there. When I started at the Nile, I was working technically 3 or 4 jobs.
Oh, damn.
And going to school, because I was working at the Nile. I was working at a stagehanding company, which for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's just like people who load in bands, build the stage, build the equipment, whatever. You don't like necessarily do anything technical besides, you know, sometimes you plug stuff in, but it's like
it's basically just loading now.
Yeah, there's always someone above you being like, hey, put that light there and that there, plug it in, don't blow it up.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and it was while I was doing that I realized, like, if you have multiple sources of revenue, as far as like being in a band too, like if you have multiple sources of income, you can make it full time.
Yeah,
like, easy.
Absolutely.
And it was actually the first paid tour that I got offered. I was driving and doing merch for an old band from here that doesn't exist anymore. That was opening for they weren't opening, but they were on the Brian Stars tour, if you remember those.
Yeah.
Oh god, that was fun.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, thank God. And the minute I got offered that, I went on to, that was like the big moment where I was like, if I do this, I have to essentially quit my job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had like nice situation to do that in, where like my rent wasn't super expensive. I lived with like my friend who owns a townhouse.
Nice.
And like I was in like the right place, the right time to be able to just be like, yeah, screw it, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And like I remember I went online, switched my availability to never, literally.
Nice.
And I never technically quit. I just never went back. and I went on tour the next day. It was like I think almost like a month and a half, and then
nice.
Yeah, I came home and just kept grinding here and like mixing at venues, trying to get better, because I ended up doing sound like once or twice on that tour, just because the venues we played were so shot and the guys were so bad that like even me being like essentially an intern, I was like, I can do this.
Yeah,
I can do this better than you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. Well, hey man, that's tight. Yeah, I guess you could say recently kind of had a moment like that where I was like, you know what, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the full time. I was on the corporate guy and I was in sales for a long time.
Yeah.
And then finally I was just like, you know what, like I want to be creative with my shit, and I started, doing the photography. I started the podcast and all that. Like,
sick. Yeah, I see you doing all kinds of stuff now.
Yeah, dude. But it's like you said though, multiple sources of income, man. Like it's more than just like that one time steady paycheck that isn't even really like secure if you think about it.
Yeah, you can't be sitting and waiting for your like say you're in like a band. You can't be sitting and like waiting for your band to take off. Like obviously you're not sitting, you're doing everything in your power to push your music and push your thing, but like there's other things you can do in a creative space that will allow you to do whatever essentially that you want.
Yeah.
Because like I haven't had a schedule like that wasn't set by me in probably like 8 years.
Yeah, nice.
Which is awesome.
That's tight.
And like I don't make like a ton of money or anything, but I am more than comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's all about like building a network.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
As you know.
Absolutely, dude.
And it's even easier when you come from a music world. You know, like both of us have been in, you know, whatever different scenes around Arizona for a while, so it's like way easier to find your footing in whatever new creative thing you can do if it benefits your friends.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you have supportive friends too,
yeah.
that definitely helps.
Dude, network is everything, especially like, you know, in the music industry. Like, if you're trying to make it in a band, you're trying to be successful, like, knowing more people is not going to be a bad thing for you. Like, it's definitely going to help you out, you know, in the long run.
That is like, people, whenever I have interns and stuff at the Nile or whatever, and like, a lot of kids don't get that like, it doesn't matter how good you are. It matters how good you are, but also how personable you are.
Yeah.
Essentially, where like, especially with like a tour, like say you're trying to be a crew guy on a tour.
Yeah.
I know so many bands that take guys that aren't amazing at what they do. They're not bad at it by any means, but they're not like the top tier that they could pay for because they like hanging out with them.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's all about how good you are at being around people.
Exactly.
You know, like, you know, if you want to be in a successful band or you want to tour or anything like that, like, knowing more people is definitely going to help you. But going back, I wanted to go back before I forget about it. Going back to your bad day before the Club Red show. Let's talk about.
I don't remember what happened.
Well, we don't have to get into the details of it, but let's talk about like how you would how you handle situations like that. Like when you're on the road and shit goes sideways, what do you do?
So that's like, I mean, that's essentially part of my job, because not only do I do audio for Fit, I'm also the tour manager.
Oh, nice.
So when things go bad, I'm the one who, I mean, they're very good about brainstorming and stuff like that, but it's usually me and Bryce, our tech, who are like, how do we make this work?
Yeah.
Just depends on the situation. You can't ever freak out about anything.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Ryan Kirby.
Dude, I want to get him on the podcast so bad.
Yeah, go for it.
I tried to DM him, but
he gets so many messages.
I know he does. Yeah.
I'm sure it's like
put in a word, bro.
He actually told me one time something that I've actually thought about a couple times since, and it was basically, don't worry about anything until there's actually something to worry about. Yeah. Because you know, it's like that day, like. We were already in Phoenix, luckily. We were at my house, which is, I don't know, 5-7 minutes from here.
Oh, okay.
From Club Red.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know, so it wasn't like a big deal, and it was like, if we can find somebody, like so if our van had some issue, we had to take it in, it took too long, and it was like time to load in, and we had to like find somebody else I knew who had a van. They pulled our trailer over.
Oh, damn.
We loaded in. Half the guys weren't even there because they were trying to get the van back.
Yeah.
So we didn't even. That show was extra crazy because we didn't even sound check.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, we didn't sound check for that show. And then, for anybody who doesn't know, with live sound, all desks are like digital now. So a lot of times you're relying on your start file, which is like, you know, your settings and your how loud something is and how the EQ and compression and stuff is essentially pretty much laid out for you, and you're just kind of adjusting to the room. Yeah. The console Club Red has, I don't have a file for it because it's just not like I mean, it's a common one, but it's just not one that like places I play ever have. Yeah. I know how to use it, but like I just don't have one. So like I went into it, no sound check, no starting point. So like basically from scratch, we line checked before the set and went for it, and it was sold out. Damn. It's great, and of course it's here, so everyone there knows me, so if I really blow it, it's like extra bad. But it ended up being fun. That's because I think on that one, I think Travis still worked at Club Red. Travis.
Travis. Yeah.
And Travis rules, so he shout out Travis.
Yeah, Travis is tight.
He's probably the only reason I survived that show. But Yeah, it's a lot of just like you have to. I've always been pretty okay about like staying calm in whatever stupid situation. You just kind of gotta laugh about it.
Yeah.
And as you're sitting there, go like, all right, what's happening? How do we fix it? What are our options? Like,
I feel that.
Like, dude, I've had to do some crazy shit. Like, we had, I think it was that same tour. We had 3 different trailers totaled on one tour.
Oh shit.
And one of them was in West Virginia, and it was like early morning. We're driving. Most people are still asleep. Lady was like big hill. We're driving up. Lady's coming by. She hydroplanes, misses the van, thankfully. Head on with the trailer.
Damn.
Totals the trailer. We like. Long story short, what we ended up doing is getting a box truck, loading everything into the box truck,
shit.
driving the still 45 minutes to the venue in a box truck, while everyone else drove the van the other direction, because we were close to Ohio, to a place that sold trailers to buy a trailer.
Oh, damn.
And like that, we had like, most of our problems are trailer based. As every musician.
How was the gear?
Totally untouched.
Oh, that's good.
Because spend money on nice cases.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's solid. I see so many musicians that don't use cases and shit, and I'm just like, yo, like, what are you doing?
If you want to do any kind of tour, if you want to be do a weekender, and you don't have like a case for your head, You're stupid.
Yeah.
Like when people show up to even like local shows and they have like their drums in like soft shell bags, I'm like, you want your stuff to break, don't you?
Yeah, what are you doing, man? No, I feel that, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've definitely had my fair share of shitty days.
Sure.
I'm sure.
And
I would agree, man. Like definitely, like the biggest point is to make sure you keep a level head. Like stay calm, man. Like there's no reason to freak out over simple shit, you know. And all it's really gonna do is cause panic and cause.
It's gonna make it worse.
Bullshit. Yeah, it's gonna make it worse.
The minute you're in your own head saying, like especially in like a touring scenario where you're in your own head saying, "Oh God, we're not gonna make the show." Is when you're not going to make the show.
Yeah, exactly. Like you've given up at that point. Like no, I feel that, man. Keep a level head for sure. Oh shit, my phone's going off in the middle of recording. That's tight. You would think me being the host, I remember to turn that shit off, but that's not.
It doesn't matter.
I could do a jump cut, but I'll probably just keep it. Whatever.
It's fine. You should keep it.
Yeah, I probably will.
I like it. It shows that you're human.
Yeah, right. Instead of having that one jarring cut.
It's just like everyone's like, what just happened?
What the fuck? Sick, man. So let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I did want to ask you, or I like to ask everybody this question at the end of every interview, and that is, if you had a piece of advice to give a new hustler, someone who is just trying to break in the music industry, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think the easiest thing is what we already kind of touched on. Like, you just can't be afraid to take that first step into the world. If you really believe and really want something, especially in the musical sphere, especially, or even like movies, whatever, media, you just gotta take that first step and not be afraid that like, it might all fall apart and you might have to do some crazy shit for money. But like, you can't be afraid. The minute you're afraid, it's the same thing we were talking about before. It all goes together. The minute you've told yourself you can't do it, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then you're never going to do it, and you're going to always regret not taking that step to, be that band that goes on tour or work at that venue or whatever.
Yeah. Just make the step, man. Actually take the leap. So many people don't take that leap, you know.
Yeah.
So many people just sit back and think it's just not in the cards for them.
That's the biggest thing I see with like, especially local bands. And not only here but on tour, but it's just like there's so many bands that I come across, I mean even here, that are like good bands that could totally go somewhere and could start building, and I just don't know if they don't know how, or if they're afraid to do that cut, or like some of them don't want to, and not everybody has to be a band that goes on tour, but like, or like tries to make a living off their band. You don't have to do that, but some people just, I think, are just afraid to take that step. And if you can't take that step, then you never will. And you'll never
Dude, I like that, man. That let's end on that. That was perfect. That was fucking. That was the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But cool, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you.
me.
Like I said, I've kind of wanted to have you on it for a while, so stoked to talk to you. Where can I find you?
That's a good question. Basically, all my social media handles are old ex youth. I don't know. I post on Instagram pretty often when I'm on tour. I have a YouTube channel that's mostly live videos from here and on tour. It's basically a couple GoPro angles and then pro shot or recorded audio. I do a lot of stuff for bands in the underground, stuff like that.
Sick. I didn't know you do that.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. I do a lot of bands. It doesn't end up. I don't always end up getting some of the bigger bands on shows that I work at home or on tour. Just because if they have like a crew or something, I don't want to step on their toes.
Yeah, I feel that.
But I have some videos up there. I've got a video of like Sanction. I've got some videos of like Hot Mulligan.
Oh, that's sick.
Chamber.
Nice.
There's a couple good ones on there.
That's
so
sick.
Definitely check that out.
Yeah. I'll get a link from you.
Yeah.
But that's dope, man. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for fucking rambling with me about I don't know, music.
Trailers.
Trailers, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm glad they didn't hit your van though. Like
she like scraped it, but like she didn't really do anything to it, which was like the most amazing thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Like any terrible thing that's happened, especially because it was like the newer band that they have. But it's any like terrible thing that happened, always a trailer. Band is always fine, which is amazing.
It's better than the trailer than you guys.
Yeah,
like,
totally. Gear is fine and can be replaced.
Yeah, exactly. Cool, man. Well, Hustlers, thanks so much for hanging out with me and Bryan Greenberg as we talked about tour, staying hungry and like remembering, I'm fucking up my words.
Now you gotta do that jump cut.
I definitely gotta do that jump cut. Hustlers, thanks so much for hanging out with me and Bryan Greenberg as we sat and talked about tour and just kind of keeping a level head when times are tough and how to stay hungry and how to go after it. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at @TheKennyFerris. You can also follow the Music Hustlers Podcast, both on Instagram and Facebook, at Music Hustlers Podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks so much. We're out of here. Peace.